I mean, that's right, and indeed, you know, you're quite right. The interface between how questions and why questions is quite complex, and indeed, there are many who would say it's a gross simplification to try and say, you know, there's how questions, there's why questions. There's a kind of quite complex relationship between them. I think Frank Rhodes himself, in simply saying, why is that kettle boiling, was simply giving, if I put a very human question, which we naturally ask. We look at something, and it's very human to ask, why is that happening? And you're right. I mean, in one sense, his first answer is, that, in effect, a description or an explanation, I think, would be of how that is happening. And then the second thing is motivational, which is, I wanted a cup of tea, so I did that. But there are others who would say that actually why questions are illegitimate. Things happen. And I mean, I have some friends who would say something like this, and I don't necessarily agree with them, but I know what they mean. They would say that every scientific explanation reduces to this simple statement: that's just the way things are. And what you're doing is you are amplifying that. You know, when you offer an explanation of a scientific phenomenon, in effect, what you are doing is, in effect, saying that that is the way things are. And I think that, you know, one can hope for more precision about these things. But I think one of the points I was making in this lecture is that as human beings, there are certain questions we feel we must ask. And these are, you know, these so-called ultimate questions that Karl Popper raises. And these are very much framed in terms of why. Doesn't mean we necessarily have answers to them, but he's simply saying it's very human to ask these questions. Whether or not there are answers, I think, is a very good question. I personally think there are, but nevertheless, the basic point that Karl Popper is making is that it's human to ask these really deep existential questions, and in Popper's view, science wasn't able to answer them. Now, you could take that in two directions. One is say, right, science can't answer them, therefore there are no answers, so we can shut the discussion down at that point. The suggestion I'm making is that actually maybe that makes us look beyond science for answers to those questions. But I would need more time to give a good answer to what is a very good and fair question, so let me thank you very much for that.